The moment that stopped time. What really happened at Incheon Airport? What truly unfolded that day at Incheon International Airport, the moment that made thousands of fans burst into tears, that left reporters stunned and the entire army trembling in disbelief? Why did Jungkook, the golden magne known for his composure and calm strength, suddenly break down in front of flashing cameras, holding Taehyung so tightly as if he never wanted to let go? It lasted only seconds, but those few seconds carried the emotional gravity of a decade, a moment that would be remembered as one of the most heartfelt scenes in BTS history. It all began quietly, almost too quietly. Kim Taehyung, known to the world as V, was returning home from France after weeks of fashion events and brand appearances in Paris. Fans had gathered at Incheon long before his flight landed, their excitement and anticipation filling the air like electricity. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder, camera lenses pointed at the arrival gate. The atmosphere was loud, yet underneath it all, there was tension, the kind that comes before something extraordinary. When Taehyung finally appeared, dressed in a sleek dark ensemble and his signature calm smile, the crowd erupted in screams and tears. But those who looked closely saw something else, exhaustion in his eyes, a subtle heaviness that seemed to shadow his usual brightness. What no one expected, however, was Jungkook's presence. He hadn't been scheduled for any public appearance. HYB had made no announcement. Yet, there he was, standing quietly off to the side, wearing a cap pulled low and a simple black jacket, waiting. Alone. No manager, no staff. Just Jungkook. As fans began to notice him, confusion spread through the crowd. Why was he there? Was this a surprise reunion? Or was it something far more personal, a moment that went beyond the public image of BTS? Then it happened. Taehyung, walking through the swarm of cameras, suddenly locked eyes with Jungkook. Witnesses described the look they shared as indescribable, something raw, wordless, and filled with unspoken emotion. Within seconds, Taehyung changed direction, walking straight toward him. The airport fell silent. Reporters stopped shouting. Fans stopped screaming. The entire world seemed to pause. When the two finally met, Jungkook stepped forward, his expression trembling between relief and sorrow. And then, without hesitation, he pulled Taehyung into his arms, a tight, trembling embrace that carried more emotion than any words ever could. For a few moments, there was nothing but stillness. And then, the whisper. No one could hear what Jungkook said. The cameras captured only the movement of his lips, the slight quiver in his voice. But whatever he whispered made Taehyung's expression change instantly. His smile faded. His eyes shimmered. His arms tightened around Jungkook's shoulders, and for a heartbeat, it looked as if both were holding onto something fragile, a moment, a memory, maybe even a promise. When they finally pulled apart, both appeared visibly shaken. It was as though they had shared something the world wasn't meant to hear. Within hours, clips flooded the internet. Fans tried to read Jungkook's lips, analyzing every frame. Some believed he said, "I missed you more than you know." Others claimed he whispered, "Don't leave like that again." The truth remained uncertain, but one thing was clear, Jungkook's words had pierced deep into Taehyung's heart, and by extension, into the hearts of millions watching. The reunion wasn't just about two friends seeing each other again. It felt like the meeting of two souls who had walked through storms, side by side, yet apart. For months, both had been focused on solo careers. Jungkook was immersed in his music projects, Taehyung was pursuing art, fashion, and quiet reflection. Their schedules rarely overlapped, and the distance between them had stirred rumors of tension. But in that single hug, every doubt dissolved. This wasn't about publicity. It wasn't planned. It was real. Fans were moved not just because they saw idols embracing, but because they saw vulnerability, the kind that strips away fame and leaves only humanity. That was what made the entire world cry. Observers later noted that Jungkook's demeanor that day was unusually fragile. His jaw clenched, his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his cap. When Taehyung touched his arm, Jungkook closed his eyes, like he was trying to hold back an ocean of emotion. Later that night, social media was flooded with emotional posts. "That wasn't a reunion," one fan wrote. "It was healing." Others called it a silent cry for connection. Industry insiders revealed that both Jungkook and Taehyung had been under immense emotional pressure recently, balancing global fame with personal introspection. The weight of representing not just a band, but a generation, had begun to show. Their embrace, many said, wasn't only about missing each other, it was about forgiveness, reassurance, and acknowledgement of how far they had come. After leaving the airport, the two reportedly sat quietly in the same car for several minutes. No words, no phones, just silence. But not an uncomfortable one. It was the kind of silence that comes after everything unspoken is finally understood. Moments like this are rare for BTS. Their lives are so public, so curated, that genuine emotion feels almost sacred when it appears. That's why this airport encounter hit so hard. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't staged. It was a raw glimpse of humanity beneath the glamour. That night, fans across the world wept as they replayed the footage. Seeing Jungkook cry reminded many that even the strongest hearts can break when faced with someone they deeply care for. Taehyung's soft smile through his own tears said more than any statement could. By morning, hashtags related to the reunion were trending globally. Analysts described it as the most human moment in BTS's public history. It reminded everyone that behind the fame, these 7 men are brothers, capable of hurting, missing, and healing each other. A few hours later, Jungkook was reportedly seen walking alone along the Han River. The same jacket from the airport hung loosely on his shoulders. Passers-by claimed they heard him humming softly to himself as he stared at the water, perhaps reflecting on everything that had just happened. Taehyung, meanwhile, was spotted leaving his residence the next morning with a faint smile. He greeted photographers politely but stayed silent. Still, something in his expression had changed, a piece that hadn't been there before, as though Jungkook's words had lifted a burden he'd carried all the way from Paris. Days later, the emotional ripple of that hug still hadn't faded. Fans continued to write essays, share edits, and discuss the meaning of that brief encounter. It had become more than just a viral clip, it had become a symbol. A reminder that true bonds don't fade with time, distance, or fame. Because in that single embrace, 2 hearts spoke a language no one else could hear, and everyone could feel. In the end, no one may ever truly know what Jungkook whispered to Taehyung that day. But maybe that's the beauty of it. Some words are meant not to be heard, but to be felt. And that feeling, pure, honest, and deeply human, is what continues to bind millions of fans to them beyond music, beyond fame, beyond time itself.